I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would you please rise and we'll say the pledge together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mrs. Feasel?
Yes.
Mr. Goladai?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes. And I would entertain a motion to approve our minutes from the September 16th regular meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Goladai. Were there any corrections? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Goladai?
Yes.
Mrs. Feasel?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Comments of board members. I would just like to welcome everyone on this beautiful, beautiful day. How nice of you to come. So I think we have lots of NAS students. Is that correct? And we have a new education reporter with the Mount Vernon News, and Jamie Holland. Is that correct? And welcome, Jamie. It's nice to have you. And we also have a new student council representative who's here tonight. And I just forgot your name.
Lingle, right?
Lingle, right. Hayden Lingle, right. And I just mentioned that to her, so confirmed that. So sorry about that. But you're very welcome this evening. And I guess I would just comment that it's been fun to visit the schools. I finished visiting the last couple schools since we last met, and just so impressed with our teachers and their dedication and commitment to our kids, and the way students are engaged in learning, the way our buildings are kept up. I think our custodial staff and the rest of our staff are working really hard to make the most of our facilities and the resources that we have, and we appreciate that. So it's been a real positive experience, and it's so much fun just to be around the children. If you want to be inspired, go visit some little kids and high schoolers, and you'll feel young again, and it brings you a lot of joy. So again, welcome this evening. And Mrs. Getzman, do you have anything you'd like to share?
Just welcome. It's good to see everybody and the students from MVNU. Welcome. I would just like to once again reiterate congratulations to Maggie Williams on her state appearance in golf. That's very, very exciting. And even though I did not get to see the band performance at Ariel live, I did watch the stream, and wow, what a performance. Our arts continue to exceed, and it was just absolutely a beautiful thing. So congratulations to all of them, and welcome.
I hope that's going to become a trend.
I'll tell you, just watching it gave me chills, so I can't imagine being there. I was at another board meeting, so I wasn't able to attend, but just the stream was amazing, so
Great.
It was pretty cool.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson.
Good welcome. And it's kind of hard to believe that we're coming to a conclusion of the fall season and fall sports and all the other extracurricular things that were going on. The other night when I was sitting up in the stands, unfortunately the score wasn't in our favor, but as I was sitting up in the stands, I was looking upon our football team, which is not just about football, but just athletics in general, and looking down and thinking, I hope people have learned a lot this year in all aspects of the extracurriculars that they participate in. But I also know that better times ahead too, with the facilities that we have, that's going to help them to be even stronger and better and more prepared, regardless of the sport. And that includes Mount Vernon Nazarene University as well, which gets to benefit from this wonderful facility we've been blessed to build. So I'm pretty excited to see how this will help us going forward and preparing our athletes and also in other areas as well.
Yeah, Mr. Goladai.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I'd like to just thank our community over and over and over again for the support that you give our Mount Vernon City Schools and all public schools everywhere. Without you, none of this would be possible. And I'm so excited, even though I'm not a big sports person, I'm so excited to see all of these facilities going up because, as Mr. Thompson has said many times in the past, sports is more than just a game, and it doesn't matter what you're involved in. It is a coming together of brilliant minds and strong bodies to do something positive. So thank you all for that support and your continued support, especially as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Peter.
And welcome to everyone too in attendance and also to Wigan Street. So looking forward to hearing about the construction project that's going on. I recently had an opportunity to tour the Gateway project, and I think Nazarene students, are you excited about that as well? There's soccer fields, and someone came up to me and said, what an honor and a privilege, to be part of this. And just think, how many high schools in the state of Ohio have access to an indoor track building? So I'm not sure, but I bet we're pretty privileged. The senior luncheon, that was great. Probably found myself wearing 2 hats at that event, but it was very nice, and just to meet a lot of our community people with that is nice. And it is election time, and I personally just want to wish everyone best wishes for the board candidate seat, and I know the right person will be selected. And just our PI levy, and just encouraging everyone to go and vote. It's such a privilege to have that ability to go and vote. So I think the other thing with the Gateway, to think that our community can access this once we get all the things worked out.
That's right.
And that is going to be wonderful. Mm-hmm. And, someone kind of whispered something at my ear at the senior levy. And, I shared a few things, and they were in awe. And just that they're going to be able to use it as well. So it's all good. We just need to get the word out.
That's right.
Very good. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Well, I'd like to welcome you all as well. I had the opportunity to be on the Mount Vernon Nazarene TIAC advisory board. And the class that you're currently taking is kind of the culmination of some things we've talked about over the years. And so we're excited to see potential new teachers kind of come into the fold. So welcome here today. We appreciate your willingness. I did get to go to that event at the Ariel Foundation Park at the Schnorr-Meyer Center. And wow, I mean, when you're inside and the doors are closed and the drums started going, holy cow, I mean, it just takes on a life of its own. So certainly thanks to the Ariel Foundation for that, but our kids did a fabulous job, so it's pretty exciting stuff.
Okay, I'll turn it over then to reports. And was there any public participation?
We don't have any commendations or communications this week. I know we generally would recognize someone from Wigan Street. Unfortunately, I don't believe she could be here tonight, so we're going to recognize her in November. And so we'll have 2 folks that we may be recognizing there. So we'll kind of have to put you on a hold and a suspense there. But we do have some reports here. And so I'll let you...
Okay, are we not going to have?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do Wigan Street now. Yeah, that's fine. So Matthew, if you want to get up, and Matt Dill is the principal at Wigan Street Elementary.
Good evening, everyone. You guys ready? Good work? Right? Awesome. Well, I brought you some tools, just in case.
Did you bring a lunchbox too?
I didn't. But Miss Rose will take care of that for us.
Okay.
All right, yes, sir.
Got some.
Thank you.
We could always show up in the job site with that and see if we show approval.
Senior?
That's great.
I thought you meant tools to use, and I was wondering how I was going to say
Better than the witch's
There you
hat.
go. Is OSHA approved? So we're ready to go?
We're ready.
Feel like a bobblehead.
You guys look great.
Bob the Builder.
It's adjustable.
Excellence under construction. We have great teachers. We have great students. We have an awesome community, no doubt. But we have work to do. We definitely have work to do. Might point that out for me.
It's gonna fall
The
off.
first thing we want to work on are our kids. There's no question we have awesome kids. They're great. Very humble. They're well-rounded. Love to speak with her every single day. But we want to make them into champions. What we mean by that is an individual with great character, that's humble. They may be the smartest thing on earth. We want them to be humble about it. I think that's very important. Achievement. We want them to achieve to high standards. We want them to be motivated, take pride in their work, impact the world in a positive way, to be outstanding. As my wrestling coach told me in high school, never give up, never give up, never, never, never. So we want them to be champions. And that's paramount to us. So one of Mr. Cedar's favorite phrases from me and our staff's favorite phrases from me is, I have an idea that I want to talk about. And during our first staff meeting this year, our first team meeting, I went to our teachers and I said, I have this idea. I have no idea where it's going to end. I have no idea what it's going to look like. I'm not really sure how we're going to get there. But this is just an idea that I've learned about through one of my favorite companies, Google. And just look for a smile, Miss Rose. And that is the whole idea of a 20% time, a genius hour. What Google does very well is they set aside 20% of the workday for their employees to work on certain projects. And that's how they've come up with certain products that work very well for them, like email and some other apps. So we're all familiar with those things. And I said, I just want us to dive into this, take a look at it, and see if we find it worthwhile for our students. So I want to give you an idea of what that means. I'm going to show you a couple videos here.
There's a movement happening right now in classrooms all over the country that encourages students to explore their own passions and creativity. Students of all grade levels will be engaged like never before. I present to you Genius Hour. This is where student passions come to life. Genius Hour has many roots, but is based on a business practice that Google uses with their development team. They allow their developers to spend 20% of their time at work on projects that interest them, provided that it has the potential to advance the company. The idea is simple. Allow employees to focus on their own passion projects and productivity will go up. There are many commercial projects that have been developed by these 20% projects, including Gmail, Google Talk, and Google News. Fortunately for students, educators have grasped onto the idea and coined the term Genius Hour. This is where teachers allow students to work on whatever project they want during their own learning time. We've all had students in our class that aren't motivated by the traditional school environment. The beauty of Genius Hour is that it provides a path to intrinsic motivation. When students have a say in their learning, they become much more engaged, their confidence is boosted, and the entire learning process becomes, you guessed it, fun. I have 3 rules for Genius Hour projects. The first rule is there must be a driving question. The student needs to be able to communicate what they want to learn about. If we can go out and find the answer on Google with a quick search, then the question is going to need some tweaking. Secondly, the project must involve research. If a student wants to build a model rocket that goes 200 feet in the air, then they need to provide the resource they used for that project. The last part is that the project must be shared. Ideally, the project needs to be shared not only with a class, but shared with the entire world. Some example projects that I had in my 6th grade classroom that turned into really great projects were 2 students that learned to code at codeacademy.com. One girl developed her drawing skills by creating a sketchbook all about wolves, and yet another student brought awareness to the dangers of smoking by creating a website. Genius Hour is one of the most impactful things that I've done in my classroom, and the students love it. It also makes for a great after-school program or activity period project. If you'd like to learn more about Genius Hour, please visit the website geniushour.com. I've posted many articles about topics that you'll likely have questions about, including where do I find the time for it? How do I propose the idea to my administration? As well as a few video interviews with other Genius Hour teachers. Unleash your students' creativity. Give them Genius Hour.
So that's part one. Their minds are going. And at this point in our meeting in August, our teachers' minds were going as well, because we have very creative people in our building. So hold on. Let's go to part two. Take a look at this.
If you could learn anything in school, what would you choose? Would you learn about fashion and maybe design a never-before-seen outfit? Maybe you'd get into art or music or theater. Perhaps you'd start a podcast where you review movies, or maybe you'd do a video series about skateboarding tricks. Maybe you'd get into robotics, or you'd learn how to code, or you would plan to invent something you've never seen before. Or maybe you'd study sports history and share the stories in your own voice. Would you start a foodie blog? Would you create your own science experiments? Maybe interview an astronaut? Learn how to solve a Rubik's Cube in the fastest way possible? Maybe you would geek out on Minecraft and build an entire civilization. Or you would throw yourself into a series of novels and then create a novel of your own. Maybe you would design something epic with Legos. Or you would solve complex global problems and find ways to serve your community. You are about to get your own Genius Hour. You get to choose the topic based upon your own key interests. You get to ask the questions and research the answers. Then, in the end, you will create something that you share with the world. This is a chance to show your genius. So go explore and learn and make something awesome.
Now, I know what you're thinking. I know exactly what you're thinking right now. Where do the standards fall? How can we connect standards to this? And Cheryl, I know, Ms. Fusel, I know you're thinking right now, this isn't on the state test. And by golly, we shouldn't do this because it's not on the state test. I assure you, we can connect these things. We can connect these things right away. We can make this happen. We can make those connections. And what we talk about all the time is having our kids be creative, be innovative, and apply this to the world and get that higher level of thinking. There's this guy named Benjamin Bloom. Maybe some of you have heard of him. He talks about how we need to push our learners to be in a higher tier of learning, be creative, be innovative, apply it. That's where our learning needs to go. It doesn't need to just be something that I can do research. We're beyond that. We're beyond just saying, hey, you know what, I don't know it, so I'm going to search it. We all can do that. But we want our learners to be more than that. And that's what this does for us. And at this point in our meeting, I'm going to share with you, there's only twice in my career, my 20-year career, that it's ever happened. I had 100% buy-in. 100% buy-in in the room in a school that I've been in for 2 years. And let me tell you, it was awesome. It was like one of the most amazing moments in my career.
That's great.
It was. Because the teachers, they were on edge. They were ready to go. They were fired up. They were so fired up they wanted to talk about it even more. I said, ladies and gentlemen, I just need to know one thing. One thing right now, we have other stuff we need to cover for the beginning of the school year. Are you in? Do you want to research this more? Or do you want me to just say forget about it? I'm good either way. I just need to ask the question. 100% of our teachers were on board. They said, let's do this. Let's have more conversations. And that was amazing. We were on fire about it. So instead of calling it Genius Hour, instead of calling it 20% time, we are calling it Champion Hour. because that's what we want our kids to be. We want them to be champions in their learning. And the teacher said, okay, in September, we met again about this subject, and the teachers said, you know, we really need to figure out what the kids want to learn, what their interests are, and then go from there. So we created a survey for our students. We sent out to every single one of our students. We have 252 students at Wigan Street, and every single one of them answered this survey. The first question was, if you were given time to study anything you wanted in the universe, what would you be most interested in learning about? And we got a whole range of topics. And if you have the time, I would encourage you to click on that link at the very top. But I went ahead and summarized this for you. Our top picks: 66 students mentioned animals, 20 mentioned technology, 16 science, 15 outer space, 14 athletics, 14 math, and 11 art. Get the time to click on that link and go
That
through
was
it.
interesting.
Oh,
It
it
is.
was
Enjoyed reading
wonderful.
that.
You would talk
And it
about
wasn't a scientist, it was a paleontologist.
paleontology, right? Right.
They were very specific.
They were. We doubt our kids sometimes, and for them to come up with something like that,
I know.
wow, these
Very
are elementary kids. It's wonderful. So those were our top picks.
At what grade level were
K-5.
K-5, kindergarten all the way through 5th grade?
The fifth graders were the ones who said.
Paleontologist, yeah.
They did the paleontology.
Yeah.
We got kindergartners talking about paleontology. Weird.
So this was K-5. Great question. And the second question was, if you had the chance to change the world in a positive way, what would you change?
How many want to see the next
Oh,
one?
this was beautiful.
Yeah.
These were beautiful.
So for those of you that aren't familiar with this technique of demonstrating data, it's called an answer garden. And the whole concept here is you enter their answers, and whatever answer comes up the most will be your largest, your boldest print. So you see from that data, a lot of kids mentioned stop littering. Stop using plastic. Everyone has to be nice. No more hungry. Hunting endangered animals. Change the color of wood. Save the turtles. Homeless.
Swimming.
Make trees lollipops. That would be great. But this is what our kids were saying. To touch on the plastic straws movement, our kids our third graders came up with a project last year to stop using plastic straws in our cafeteria. It was all based on a research study that they did in class and how it's affecting wildlife. So we don't use plastic straws anymore because of our kids. Stop wars. And that was ours.
Every weekend to have school.
Right? So that solar panel power.
Did you see that one at the top, Darcy? Everyone should be able to do math. Did you see that?
I didn't see that one, but I agree. Can we get it bigger?
That would be my smallest one.
Is that your child?
There's a motive behind this question, because there was talk among staff to have a career day at the end of the year, and we're kind of tossing that around still. And so, as we're creating the survey, I want to ask them this question: what type of job do you want to have when you become an adult? I'm sorry. So this is the same idea. A lot of them want to be policemen, scientists, a whole creativity piece. Teachers, doctors, zookeepers, YouTubers, marine biologists.
Archaeologists, philosophers.
Book
Oh,
play,
Lindy's.
yes.
No, there,
plays in
there, Darcy, that's your child.
I see that.
No, I'm afraid of, I see some answers up there that might.
sports team.
An author, right?
But what that does for us is that gives us data on what their interests are, and that allows us to drive what we're doing for them better. It's real eye-opening.
Have the students had a chance to see the data?
They haven't yet. Okay. They haven't.
Good.
I bet the
So-
parents would find it interesting too.
Definitely. I'll share this out with the parents as well. So then the conversation went to September 30th when we had our end service, and we were in a totally different type of meeting, and the teachers, I'm telling you, they're on fire about this. They wanted to talk about this more. Like I could barely stop the meeting in September before that end service about this topic. And they stopped whatever we're doing and they said, hey, can we talk about this a little bit more? Great, let's talk about it. And they said, okay, we've created a survey for students. We really feel like we need a survey for teachers. So we make sure that everyone's being heard, and it's not just the people that speak the most. All right, let's do it. So we created this survey for the teachers, and here's some of the questions, not all the questions, but some of the questions that we asked them. First was, when do you want our champion hour to take place? So this is laying out the design of where we're going, architecture. And as you see, we had a couple ideas here, doing a 2-hour delay, which means that our master schedule, not the school day, but the master schedule would be pushed back 2 hours. So kids would show up at the same time, they would leave at the same time. But our classes would be pushed back 2 hours to create this block. Once a month, 1 hour delay, 2 times a month. You plan this time within your schedule, and as long as it goes 2 hours per month. 2 hour delay for each grade level, 1 hour delay for interactive with other grade levels. So there was talk about collaborating amongst other grade levels. Like, for example, 5th grade collaborating with 3rd grade, or kindergartners collaborating with 4th graders. And so I wanted to put that out there for them to see how they felt. So we would have a 2 hour delay once a month, and then we'd have this intermediate where it would be a 1 hour delay 2 weeks later, or just no preference. So this is going to be an interesting conversation on Thursday when we have our next meeting, because as you see, it's pretty even. It's pretty even. Next question was, what is your preferred groupings of students? So self-contained, multi-grade level. Each grade level can determine their own grouping. If kindergartners want to work with 3rd graders, so be it. Your K1, 2, 3, 4, 5, K2, 3, 5, or self-contained, first meeting per month, 2 hour delay, just grade levels. And as you see there, it's everything but, it looks like the self-contained is pretty well even. So there'll be some interesting conversations ahead of us. Something I said to the teachers was, as we go down through this process and we get to a point where we just don't believe in it anymore, then we don't believe in it. But we're going through the process and seeing what we develop. The next question was, how would you like students grouped to their projects? Independently, so within the class, are we doing independent work for each kid? Whole group, so teacher to the whole class, small groups, maybe 4 or 5 groups within one class, or doing pairs. And it looks like a majority of teachers believe that it needs to be in small groups. So we're pretty well set. So this is our construction process. This is where we see this going. As I mentioned to you in August, we began the conversations. Hey, I have an idea. How do you feel about it? From September until the end of December, we're doing those, as you guys know, in our contract, we have that 1 hour before school or 1 hour after school that we're doing our time. This is what we're using it for. Until the end of December, we're going to develop this plan. In January, our vision is to begin this, to begin implementing this. Does that mean we stop all our planning? Heavens no. We still have planning to do, because there are going to be bumps in the road. Maybe a call on Friday that we're going to open up a road, right? It could happen. So we're going to continue to develop this, continue to improve it. And then in May, our plan is to do a SWOT analysis. So our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of this construction process. And where do we go for next year? And then in August, we're going to continue to improve the process of champion hour. Unless they say otherwise. They say, hey, Matt, we don't believe this anymore. And that's okay too. So that's champion hour. Any questions about champion hour? Chad?
Yes, in regards to the grouping of students, I know in my teaching, sometimes you have that student who just cannot work with others and has to work on their own. So would that be taken into consideration?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And as you're speaking, I can think of
Several.
five or six, just like that.
Okay.
So absolutely.
Okay.
Anything
Thank you.
else? Okay, we have other construction projects going on as well at Wigan Street. As Mr. Cedar, I'm sure, has shared with all of you, and you've been on board with it, it's our Spanish Flex program. That it continues to develop, and this is going to continue to be a topic of conversation as we move forward. We started last year with kindergarten. It was a partnership with Kenyon. This year we went into kindergarten, first grade implementation. We're still polishing it. We're still getting bugs worked out, but it's going well. It's going very well. Mr. Cedar, myself, and this Thomas from Kenyon are going to visit Oberlin School District here in a couple of weeks to do some research and see how they're doing and have some conversations. And then from here, we're going to go forward towards fifth grade. So there's the timeline for you. That's our vision. Those are our goals. But this is going to need to be a conversation because at some point, there's going to have to be a shared resource from Mount Vernon City School District to be a part of that. The second thing, or really the third thing, is we're stressing our internal and external relationships. One of my favorite football coaches of all times was Jim Tressel. And Jim Tressel said it many times, relationships are what matter. That's how we do very well. So we're focusing on that internally and externally to make sure that Wigan Street is the best school that it can possibly be. Thank you very much for your time.
Very nice.
Appreciate it very much.
Well, when Matt says, hey, I've got an idea, trust me. He does. He gives me a phone call. Bill, I have an idea. And they can be pretty exciting at times. And this Genius Hour was certainly something that I thought, wow, this could have some real impact. So, Matt, thanks for your leadership there. I know he's also looking at a Veterans Day program that's been really well thought out, taking all kinds of factors into consideration. But again, Veterans Day is about honoring our veterans. And so I know we've talked quite a bit about communication and age appropriateness kinds of things, protecting some students, and really bringing this experience before the experience even happens. I mean, we should be talking about what Veterans Day is about and what some of these ceremonial kind of things are prior to the day that we actually do it. And so Matt has really done a nice job of working with the mayor of Gambier and I think Kenyon College and communicating to parents. So we're really excited about the things that are going on out at Wigan Street that's under Matt's leadership. So thank you, Matt.
You know, Mr. Cedar, when we were at Wigan Street and we heard about the Spanish Flex program, I mean, I'm going to say it again, if it really works well, I would like it in all of the elementaries.
That'd be nice.
You know,
Yeah.
just if things can have a balance in all the elementaries, it would be great.
Well, and interestingly enough, again, as you know, this has been a dream of mine and Matt's, and that's a big reason why he's at Wigan Street. Oberlin School District is right next to Oberlin College, and they have had a Spanish immersion program there for many years.
years. I mean, we're probably talking 6, 7, 8 years. So they've kind of gone through the steps, and it's a very successful program. And so as we continue to refine ours, it's about, let's get out, see what other people are doing. Because there will come a time where if this continues on the trajectory we think it is heading, we are going to have to provide some resources in the way of instructional support to make this happen. And then can we replicate it? Can we take it from Wigan Street to the next, and so on and so forth? Be nothing that would please me more than to have students starting in kindergarten across the district becoming a dual language learner. That's when they soak it up the most. And so it is exciting, and I'm glad we can do that together.
You ready for our reports then?
Yep.
Okay, Hayden, you're on. Hayden Lingle, senior class president.
Well, so as you know, I'm Hayden Lingle, senior class president, and I'm following Halcyon, which is, I've heard, pretty tough act to follow, but I'm ready for the challenge. So as we heard mentioned earlier, it's the last week of football and the fall sports. And Maggie was our 11th in state, so we're really proud of her and proud to have her at Mount Vernon High School. And the spring play this year is a mime production, so there's going to be different mimes, so it's all going to be silent, probably going to have music. We haven't heard much about that yet, but it'll come more. And the Powder Puff game is coming up, so we're having lots of practices now with the juniors and the seniors. It's going to be on November 4th at 6:30. And that's just a fundraiser for our prom. And we have conferences coming up. Do you know the dates on those yet?
Yep.
Yeah.
The Tuesday, 6 and 7.
Yeah. So those are going to be then, and the students don't have school on the Thursday and Friday. So let's go for us, the teachers. Well, it's tough to go. We have NHS and the Key Club doing a blood drive on the 30th. It's this October 30th, so this Wednesday, in the high school library. And then we had the homecoming parade, and that went pretty good. We had all the sports doing it, and I'm sure many of you hopefully saw it. It's pretty good. And finally, we have our winter sports starting. I know there's a couple basketball practices that are starting soon, as well as a couple others. So do you have any questions regarding student life at high school?
How was the homecoming dance?
The homecoming dance was really fun this year. It wasn't as hot as last year, so that was fantastic. I heard a lot of the students really enjoyed it too. It was a lot of their favorite one.
Is there any excitement with us finally getting the coffee bar opened up?
I personally don't walk by it very often because I'm a dual student, so I leave in the afternoon. So I haven't really been to the cafeteria often, but I do take students on tours and get to see it sometimes. So I'm pretty excited about it, but I haven't heard many other opinions, but.
I have one.
Yes.
Would you mind if I took your picture so I can send it to your father to say that you were setting the board straight? I work with her dad.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job, Hayden.
Good job.
Thank you.
And Mrs. Nesbitt, I presume, doesn't want
That's
to.
actually tonight.
Oh, you
Do
do?
you have something?
Yeah, I was just gonna invite everyone. We are having a Meet the Candidate Night Wednesday at 7 o'clock in the high school here to meet the candidates vetting for Mount Vernon School. So, invite everyone.
Is it 6 or 7?
7.
7? Okay.
Yes. Yep. 30th.
Do you know what that format kind of looks like?
Yeah, we actually just kind of finalized that this afternoon. So, once we introduce all the candidates, we will bring them out one at a time. They'll have 90 seconds to give an opening statement. And then we have some questions for each one, and then they can make a closing statement, and then we'll bring out the next member and so forth. And then depending on time, if there's time for meet and greet at the end, if candidates would like to do that,
Okay.
they're more than welcome.
When did you say this was?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
At the high school?
Yep, high school theater.
Okay, thank you. And Mike, anything?
Mike, you have anything?
Yeah, thanks. I really don't. I mean, I'm good with planning with Darcy on the meet the candidate night, but appreciate the offer.
Anytime you want to talk. You're welcome.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity for Meet the Candidates. I know both OPSI and MVEA have collectively together kind of pulled this together, so thank you for that. This is important work here, and it's good that we take it serious, so. No public participation.
Okay, so board items for discussion, none for information or approval, so additions or deletions?
No additions or deletions?
Okay, to your report.
Okay, I have really two items for information. The first is one I'm going to pull up a Google map. And so I was able to share with the board most recently that on Friday at about 2 o'clock, we kind of got sprung with a notice that, hey, the paving company is going to be shutting down in the next week, and we'd really like to get Yellow Jacket Drive extension complete. We want to start on Monday. And as excited as we are about them starting to get it complete, it meant a whole lot of extra work starting at about 2:30, 3 o'clock on Friday, because it's going to change some traffic patterns around the high school, middle school area. This morning was supposed to be as normal as possible, and then we were going to begin to do some planning around it. So let me just briefly, if I can, kind of show you what we're looking at here. There's two loops. There's an outer loop, all right, and then there's an inner loop, which is the parking lot. This outer loop that goes up along the drive, this is going to be blown all the way out, and if you just kind of take those telephone lines and kind of join them up right to, picture that as kind of the roadway, all right? So they're going to take this and they're going to cut the curb out, and they're just going to go straight into the Yellow Jacket Drive extension. The actual Yellow Jacket Drive extension has already had the sub base and the base, and all of that's in place. All we have to do is make this connection from, if I get closer back, but we've actually got to poke through. The interesting part is once we start work right there, it eliminates the outer loop. And that's where our buses were always at. And so because they have to do that to make this whole paving piece done, we had to really make some kind of changes in our drop-off pickup patterns, all right? And so let me start with the drop-off first, since it's the morning. All right, what we're going to do is we're not going to bring any buses around here to drop off for the rest of the week. So there will be no buses in this area right here. All the buses are going to come down in this top parking lot where there was a circular. Quite frankly, it's not used like maybe we thought it was being used. So I had a meeting at 9 o'clock with all the bus drivers to share with them what was going on. And we just walked it through, said, let's make the best of this. We're going to bring all of our buses in. They're going to actually come around, drop students off, and then they'll leave. There's a real benefit to this because we're going to keep all parents out of this area for the next week. Our buses kind of come in sporadically, so they don't come in all at once like a big caravan. It might be 1 and 2 and then 3. We're going to get them in. They'll drop off on sidewalk sides, all right? And we're going to have all the students at the high school go into the cafeteria, and then we're going to have the other students, they'll walk down to get inside the middle school. The neat part about the cafeteria part is we're getting ready to open up, and hopefully it'll be open tomorrow, the coffee bar. We really want to encourage high school students to go in and take advantage of breakfast opportunities. We're going to be, everybody that we bring to school, we're going to be dropping off up here in this area. All right, so they'll easily be able to go in here. What we're asking all of the parents to do is they're going to come down here, and we're going to keep them on this outer loop. I'm going to step in front of you, but the parents are going to come down in the outer loop, and we're going to bring them all the way up to this point. All right, they'll get out on the curbside. They'll continue on down this drive to get out, and we'll just keep a nice circular rotation. Where before we had to bring them kind of through the parking lot and around the other parking lot. So we're gonna work on this way of dropping off for an entire week because we need to free up the area down there to get Yellow Jacket Drive paved. By the end of the week, you should see a paved drive from Cougar all the way up to Division Street. All right, so that'll be drop off. All buses up here. All parents who bring their students to school will be here. Obviously, senior and junior parking, that won't change, okay? We sent out a reminder in a Knox alert, and both principals have made some announcements. We'll have everybody in full force out helping to direct traffic tomorrow, because invariably somebody won't have gotten that message. Now, pickup is more difficult, because what we do with pickup, we have all 20 buses come and they're all parked waiting for school to dismiss. So we're going to continue our dismissal with the buses down here. What we're doing is along this parking lot, so let's call it the east side of that parking lot, we now have caution tape and we don't allow anybody to park in there. And we leave that there all day. So the buses would traditionally come on this outer loop and they would park, and kids would come into them. All we're doing is we're changing it and they're park, but they're on this inside parking lot because we have no cars there. And so really the lineup is almost identical. Outer loop, all the way to here. Now we're parking them right down along this inside of the curb, not over here, but here. Students come out. There's no cars that they're crossing the way. They're getting in and then they start their convoy on the way out. All right, so we're really trying to navigate this for the week to get Yellow Jacket Drive open. But in reality, we're also getting a good look right now of what this could look like here in the future. Because once Yellow Jacket Drive is complete, this exit goes away. There won't be an exit there. It'll actually go all the way to Yellow Jacket Drive, and you can go right or you can go left. And so we're kind of beginning to prepare some patterns to really see what might work best for us. I would love it if this really works out, and this could be our drop-off, which would minimize that just big old traffic jam right down Yellow Jacket Drive for the most part. Keep the flow better there. And we'll just see what happens. But I wanted to make sure you got a chance to see what that was all about and what the next 4 days is going to look like.
So where are we encouraging staff to park? Because that lower parking lot is typically staff parking?
It is. So they can still park in this lot.
Okay.
Okay? And they can still park on this side of this lot. We just have to leave this side of that lot open.
Okay.
And so, believe it or not, we had the senior citizens luncheon, and they actually blocked off this lot, didn't allow any cars in there. And believe it or not, everybody fit just fine. Today, when we were gonna just block this side, and Rick ended up blocking off the whole lot, surprisingly, we had enough spaces for everybody on one side.
Okay. Wow.
I don't know if that's just a matter of, we're more spread out before, but it's been working. So they'll actually have 3 of the 4 areas available to them.
Okay.
Well, I like the idea of the cafeteria traffic, if that can be beneficial to get kids in the cafeteria.
It could certainly be an ancillary benefit to it. Interestingly enough, speaking with the drivers, and I thought there might be a bit more hesitancy, sometimes change is just a challenge, but realizing what's going on there was just an openness to say, let's give it a try. And, we'll drop off, because usually when a bus comes, they stop 35, 40, 50 seconds. Kids are pretty much off, then they can just get out. They're actually going to then go and they'll assemble down in the parking lot at the stadium. We're going to open up the restrooms for them there so that they can have access to it. Remind me afterwards, I got to double check with Justin to take care of that. All these things we got to make sure we take care of, but it'll be interesting tomorrow. I mean, we're all going to be out there ready to kind of tackle this. Tomorrow will be the first day for parent drop-off on the outer loop. We think they're probably going to absolutely love it, because right now they're weaving in and out of the parking lot and kind of doubled up. I hope that the bus drivers love it up there, and we can make that as attractive up there so that it's a win-win. Absolutely. And we can, figure out how to continue to move this transportation thing forward. So for all practical purposes, by the end of the week, this drive going all the way to Cougar Drive will be open and available to two-way traffic. The only downside is you're going to go here to Cougar Drive, and you're going to head up to the bridge, and then you're going to get stuck. And of course, the bridge is going to close for a period of time, and all of that. But it's all in the eyes of progress. We're making some amazing progress. And once this is all done, from the bridge down to Yellow Jacket Drive, it's just going to be really, really neat. This summer then, once we open up this drive, this summer we'll come back, and when we can close this up, we'll actually kind of reshape and reform this and put some islands in here. But right now, you'll probably see some barricades just kind of keeping them out, because we will have some dead spots. I mean, this little drive right here will no longer be needed, because the drive's actually going to be up here, and this road's going to go straight into that drive. So, we'll have to kind of close some of this off, and but it is exciting time. Okay. And the other thing I have for you tonight is, as items for information, this is our board policy preview time. And so we usually do these in a 2-month kind of an increment. So we'll give you this month to kind of take a look at some of these policies. We've linked all the policies here on the left. Something we've added this year, I think you'll really like it, is if you go to this volume, these volumes over here, that will give you a quick overview of each one of these, really on 2 pages. So you don't have to go to every one of them and read it. And it will tell you from the eyes of policymakers. They may say, non-reemployment of the treasurer. Why did I pick that one? But they may say, this is a policy you have to have. And it'll give you a sense of what the policymakers are saying about each one of these. Some of them, they really don't give you lots of choices. Other ones, they might say, hey, this is up to you and the board whether you want to include these. So I would encourage you to read these little overviews. It'll save you a whole bunch of time than going in here. But when you do go in here, it'll have the strikeouts and the new things and all of those kind of things as well. So those 2 items for your information. I really only have 1 item for board approval tonight in the superintendent section. Home and community school student participation in athletics. So you have 2 students there playing middle school basketball.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve this.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Gulladye. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Who was our
Other
second?
questions?
I'm sorry.
Mrs. Gibbs. With a question.
Yeah, just on the policies, lots to read. They always are. I appreciate the summary piece, but I was kind of curious when I was reading over the tobacco. It's pretty much the same in every single one. Right? Basically, we're saying
It's for the different groups.
It's for the different groups is what it is. So
but that's my question.
Yeah.
Is that by law we have to be that specific? I mean, we are a tobacco-free campus.
I think it's saying the same thing, like the 300s would be for like your classified, your 500s would be for your students, your 400s would be for, so they're really just different groups, but you're right, it's the exact same policy. Does that answer your question?
Well, it does. I'm just like, one fits all. Why don't we have one policy?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think there's so many other
That would be
policies
too
within
easy.
those subgroups that,
I know, but.
But you will notice they are numbered the same. It's like 1615, 3215, 4215. And so they kind of stay along the numbering system, but they represent different groups.
Sure.
And I'm glad we didn't have to have these done by today.
No, we'll give you the rest of this month. And call us with any questions you might have. Again, so much of this, we're dependent upon a policy-making firm to come and do this. And we had, I know Gary and I and Terry were all there with the representative. We went through every one of these policies, kind of line by change. And some of them, they're just like, you need to do this. This is now law. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I don't even really have a choice here. I just got to adopt this policy. Oh, and this one, you do have a choice. You can choose to do it or not do it. So those are the ones we really try to bring to your attention.
All right, thank you. And we have a motion on the floor. Were there any questions about the home community school students' participation? I think we're glad to do that. So, okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Gulladye.
Yes.
Mrs. Feasel.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Okay. At this point, if there are any, I guess we don't really have any visitors. I'd like to present the success, and I'm going to skip down to the third, how to boost communication among younger kids. I thought this was really an interesting, if you want to click on that and skip to, this was for kindergarten students, and the teacher is guiding discussions that can be adapted to classrooms of younger students. We think about teaching older kids to give reports and to interact with each other and to share, but we don't really think about kindergartners doing this. And this teacher has a blog, and she's showing how these models work to support communication. She uses a feature called Turn and Talk, where she models it with an adult student if there's one available, another teacher. If not, she uses a student, and she actually demonstrates how you just turn and talk and make eye contact and so forth. And then they take a turn and they become a good listener, and then it's their turn to talk, and they share ideas in this way. She also has a Think Pair Share, which was very similar to develop listening skills, and she actually used popsicle sticks. Remember, these are kindergarten students, and one had a picture of a mouth on it, the other picture of an ear. So when you were given the picture of an ear, you were the listener and you weren't allowed to talk, and when you were given the mouth, they would switch. Then you were able to to talk, and the students then practiced repeating what they had just heard. So it teaches good listening skills, which I thought was really a good idea. So that was one, and that was in Ruth Calkins, and I guess it doesn't really say where, does it say on where it's located?
The schools, huh?
Yeah, okay. The second one is about esports, and if you just want to click on that, it shows all the freely available new free esports curriculum that is supported by Microsoft Corporation. It's called the STEAM Universe, and they point out, that's probably an ad, right? You can get rid of
Close
that.
the ad. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, if you just keep scrolling down. I don't think that's the right one. It's the
This is
esports. Okay,
esports curriculum.
okay. It keeps scrolling down then. Well, the version I saw showed all of the options. So let's see. Go back up to the top and maybe click right on the picture or the link. Free sports contains full lesson plans, maybe.
Clear.
Okay, maybe you need to back up then. Anyway, it lists all of the possible programs that are free curricula, and it points out that there are full lesson plans, there's focus on gaming careers, and they also pointed out that in 2024, and I didn't realize this, but the Olympics in Paris is going to actually include a demonstration of esports. So it's becoming a really big thing. And this is something that kids would be turned on about, so I would think.
I don't know if you know this, Dr. Bennett, but MVNU now has esports.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
So,
Do any of you participate in the esports program at MVNU? No?
Full ride scholarships for that.
It is quite interesting on the NAS station when they'll say tonight the volleyball team plays or the soccer team and esports will be playing.
Yeah,
And it's interesting that they do that, right?
Yeah.
It's all.
okay, the next one is about positive childhood experiences to buffer against health effects of adverse experiences. And the research that's coming out shows what can be done to buffer against these bad experiences in childhood. And the researcher, I thought what she did was amazing. She studied a survey that was done of adults, 6,188 adults, 18 and older, responded to this survey, and it was data from the Wisconsin Behavioral Risk Factor Study. And they asked them questions about their childhood experiences and talked with families about their feelings. The students indicated whether they talked with their families about their feelings, felt their family stood by them during difficult times, and they found that if they had positive experiences or even a significant adult that met with them, and these are kids that were subjected to poverty or trauma. Maybe there weren't parents even in the home, they were in a foster care or whatever, and they're trying to show that positive experience in other environments like the school, for example, or one example was given, this student actually, who grew up to be this researcher, was a child who lived in a housing project, and she had very little parental supervision, and her parents didn't seem to relate with her, but there was a lady in the housing development that every Friday had a birthday party for all the kids that had a birthday that week. And she got to know this woman, and she became a positive influence in her life. And it shows that if there are enough positive influences, enough adults other than the family who can provide that support and that positive influence, that the cumulative effect of these experiences, there are higher counts of results that are positive in 72% of the cases. So it's just really kind of an interesting article. But the takeaway is that every moment matters that you spend with a child. And every interaction with a child that has at least 2 non-parent adults who took genuine interest in them, whether they felt safe and protected by the adult in the home or not, or supported by friends and felt a sense of belonging. So I just thought that was pretty significant and reminds us that, kids really do need us, and you can make a tremendous difference in a child's life just by being there for them and being interested in them. So the last article is why it's okay for students to struggle. And I was talking to my grandson just last week about, persevering and having grit. So I think about math, not giving up when he was upset about doing some homework and didn't want to have to redo it. Because I'm a former math teacher, so I'm checking all of his work, Anyway, teachers should consider promoting productive struggle among their students to improve learning, actually creating instances where they're forced to struggle and presenting them with difficult situations so they learn how to be resilient and how to persevere, and so that everything's not, in other words, don't spoon feed the kids, but challenge them to the extent that they will struggle and they may fail, but that teaches them how to grow. So that's what that article's about. So very good. I didn't take time for the research article, but you have all of those. So lots of good resources for teachers and even parents that we could share with. So any questions?
Just a comment on that turn and share, and where you turn and talk. I know our music teachers in the past have done something similar to that. When the child has the instrument, they have their turn to be creative with it. And I think that was an idea from Native American tribes who have a talking stick. And you give the stick to the next person and they talk. So I know our music people have used some of those same techniques. So I just thought that was interesting.
Well, and little children are so excited about everything and willing to share. So if we can foster that at a young age so that they don't lose that ability, but just continue to hone it and develop.
I appreciate the article on the It's Okay to Struggle, because I think sometimes we as well-meaning parents or even well-meaning grandparents, in my own case, we kind of want to remove as many obstacles as we can from our kids, and we might be actually doing a disservice by doing that. Our kids who struggle, they learn perseverance, they learn to never give up, and yet sometimes we just kind of want to mow out the way and make it as smooth as we can. And
they're called lawnmower parents.
Lawnmower parents.
Used to be
Helicopter.
helicopter, now it's the lawnmower. They anticipate what's going to be clear enough.
I like the positive reinforcement. That, to me, is just such a value. At any age.
Yeah.
And friendships develop because we're good listeners, so I can see where, it will impact their personality and ability to be concerned about others and listen to others too, so. Okay.
I have 3 items for board approval in this section of the agenda. We have an overnight extended field trip. It's a ski boarding and ski trip to Holiday Valley in New York. You'll see that's going to take place in February, provided we have snow. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. We also have, golly, here's one, not this summer, but next summer. As you know, we're taking lots of trips abroad at Mount Vernon, and while we're going to England this year, they're looking at Costa Rica the next year, and here is a Costa Rica trip in June. And I thought the price on this was really, really reasonable at $2,500 per student, and what wonderful opportunities for our kids to take advantage of. And then item 3 is a College Credit Plus agreement. As you know, we have a lot of students participating in College Credit Plus. I think Kathy shared with me the other day, I think we have about 229 classes being taken in College Credit Plus this fall alone. And this agreement with North Central State is just another one of those colleges that's in close proximity. And the nice part with North Central in this case is they're accrediting some of our teachers so that we can keep our students on campus. And I think it's as Darcy and I were talking, this is it's an anatomy physio class, but it's being counted as a biology class in college. And North Central will recognize one of our teachers as a professor who maybe wasn't recognized in some other campuses. So it's a positive opportunity for our kids.
Okay, great. Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve those items as read.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gulladye. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Gatsby. And are there any questions? I did have a question about the North Central State. If we do have our own teacher teaching the class, there's still a charge. It's reduced.
Much more minimal. It's about $44, I think, versus...
A credit hour, though, right?
It
So
is.
would it be 3 credit hours?
It would be.
Okay.
But if they take it on campus, it's now up to about $188 an hour. If it's taught on our campus with their professor, I think it's about $88. So
it's a sliding scale.
it's a sliding thing. So to our advantage, it's get college credit at our home school, taught by our teacher. It's the best of both worlds.
That's great.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Gulladye.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Feasel.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And fiscal services.
Click on the financial report there. There's one thing that I wanted to point out on here that may look a little odd. This page is very typical of what you will see on a month-to-month, so there's nothing really there unless you have questions. With the next page, you will see under general property real estate tax, it's a negative of $17,608. Now, we didn't lose $17,000. We are working with a company that Judy started working with last year, a forecasting company for our 5-year forecast. And their software doesn't like that money put there because it's a rollback. So all we've done is pull it from there and we've put it under all other operating revenue. It doesn't stand out as much because it's 17,000 and a much larger number. So I didn't want anyone to be thrown off by that. We didn't lose the money. We have just moved it so the software is happy and therefore we will be happy.
We want happy software, right?
Yeah, we want happy software so we get a good 5-year forecast. Really nothing else on these that isn't typical of what you would see. This month we did get our first layout of wellness money. You don't necessarily see that because it's rolled into other funds. I know Mr. Cedar is working hard on developing a plan, and we've chatted multiple times about how we're going to utilize those funds. So I'm sure you'll be hearing some additional information about that soon. You can see our investment report doing very well. Again, we always want to be thankful for the gift we were given to build the facility, because we also get to collect interest on that gift that we were given from Ariel to build the facility. So it's kind of a double blessing to us, and we will take it. The rest is just the typical things you see. Obviously, our investment portfolio. This is the money we would be investing even if we had not received the gift. And then on the next page, you will see the gift funds that have been invested through Meter. And if you have any questions about that, obviously shoot me an email and let me know. But if you move to the next, we have some appropriations that would need your approval in order to be sent to the auditor. There's really only a couple things. I'm gonna run over here real quick just to explain some things. This, we wrapped up the spending of a safety grant from the previous year, so we have to appropriate the money that we spent. Hopefully we'll get another one, but we don't know yet, so we will see. That also went there. This was the tax anticipation note. So we're not just throwing around $2.5 million, but we do know we're gonna have to spend some of that in order to build the bus garage, do Yellow Jacket Triangle. What hadn't been appropriated, so we gotta get that taken care of. And this was the rest of the gift from the Ariel Foundation that we're appropriating, and that's why you see the changes in the month of October. That's really it from my perspective, and if there's no questions, I'll move on to the donations.
Any questions?
You good? All right. There's several donations today. We have a donation to Twin Oak Elementary Library in memory of Betty Randolph from her Elmwood colleagues. That was 11 books. We have another donation to the Twin Oak Elementary Library from the Mount Vernon Public Library of 16 books. A donation to the Wiggin Street Library from the Mount Vernon Public Library of 2 books. A donation to the Pleasant Street Library from the Mount Vernon Public Library of 10 books. A donation to the Columbia Library from the Mount Vernon Public Library of 8 books. A donation to East Library from the Mount Vernon Public Library of 1 book. A donation to Dan Emmett Library from the Mount Vernon Public Library of 10 books. Then we have another donation to the Dan Emmett Library from Audra Hess and Laura Hess of 5 books. Another donation to the Dan Emmett Elementary from Jesse Hanna, and that is popcorn and oil for Popcorn Fridays. And then another donation to Twin Oak Elementary from the Twin Oak PTO, and they donated $1,625 for 5th graders to take a trip to BizTown. It's awesome.
Okay, thank you. I would entertain a motion then to approve those items recommended for approval.
So moved.
Thank you. Mr. Goloday, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Fiesel. Were there any questions?
No.
I don't have any questions, but just a comment on Twin Oak. I remember we had that report about BizTown when the children had gone there, and it was fantastic. So really grateful to have that opportunity for those students there.
Thank you for making that comment.
And I would say these books are amazing. Kids just love to read. And if you ever want to go to one of our elementaries on a Friday, go on a Friday, because a lot of our folks have popcorn in the hallways, and it just smells pretty heavenly, as big. So.
Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Goloday,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. And we're to business services and our legislative liaison report.
Thank you. The Senate Bill 26 became law, and it now allows teachers of up to $250 deduction for out-of-pocket expenses for classroom supplies and professional development on their state income taxes. In the House, HB 76 modifies the form of election notices and ballot language for property tax levies. This was originally part of the state budget bill, but it was subject to a line item veto by Governor DeWine. HB 119 revolves around distracted driving and texting, with increased penalties for passing a school bus in a distracted manner. And then in the Senate, we had SB 89, revises the law regarding career technical education and joint vocational districts. And in the analysis by OSBA, the language is mainly concerning Educational Management Information System, or EMIS. In the House Finance Committee, they reviewed the Patterson funding bill, which is HB 305. I haven't heard any updates on that, so I think it's just going to be slow going. The Senate Judiciary Committee held a hearing on SB 16, which would require public schools to instruct students in proper interactions with officers during traffic stops and other encounters. I think that's an excellent idea. I just don't know if we should have to provide it. SB 125 permits expansion of income tax deduction for contributions to 529 saving plans for education. SB 120 in the House Education Committee amended the bill regarding the College Credit Plus program. It would allow other colleges or universities within 30 miles of a public school to attend the informational sessions which are offered. And that's all I had. I was looking at my notes past there, and that's it. So are there any questions or comments or ideas going into the OSBA conference? I'll be going to the legislative session. So if anyone has any thing that you'd like me to ask any of those legislators that'll be there, please let me know.
What were you saying about the College Plus?
There have been some rules that if they were outside of an area, they could not come to just the informational sessions, those colleges, to let students know that they were around. But they want to amend that so that it would allow other universities within a 30-mile stretch.
Isn't it if there are no other colleges?
If there are no other colleges, et cetera, around the area.
Our informational meetings take place in the spring of every year, and so when we have these informational meetings, some of our local folks obviously will come to that meeting, almost kind of like an information kind of a night.
It's like a college fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like college fair or job fair, yeah.
And would you keep us apprised of the cup or something?
Yes, I will.
Hoping for.
I'm hoping we'll have some answers at the conference.
That would be great. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We do have a number of recommended items in this business section. Again, free facility requests continue to come in at a nice high rate. You're seeing a whole list of them. I think I counted maybe up to 12. So they've kind of renamed the Battle of the Books to a 5th grade academic competition. I don't know if you noticed that.
I had to open that to see what that was.
I haven't. I haven't heard that they've had a name change. I don't know how that necessarily played its way out, but you're seeing 2 nights there. We've got Girl Scouts. We have 4th grade readers. We have Family First Nutrition. We have MBA and OPSI, girls basketball leagues. Did I miss anything up there? Quite a number of different groups that are coming in. And we do have one item for facility use that does charge a custodial rate, and this is for the Colt Football League banquet. They'll have their banquet on a Saturday, and we have to just pay custodial costs for that event, so that's why it's listed there. But lots of free facility opportunities, and then one paid one.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the facility items as well.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Ruda. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Are there any questions?
Just a comment that with the new facility being built, there will be so many more opportunities for our community and our children to use these facilities without being, pushed out. Sometimes we just don't have the space, so this is going to be
We
great.
may have to come up with an online system. If there is, continue to expand. Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Regola Dye.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Student services.
have 3 items for approval tonight. If you remember from last month, we tabled the East Knox contract at the last minute, just for some clarification. So that has been updated here. And the second one is the Mid-Ohio ESC. Typically, we would use ESCs that we have historically used, like Central Ohio ESC out of Franklin County or our own ESC, but this is for a student placed in another county, and it's just a smidge too far, so it makes more sense to use Mid-Ohio for that. And then I have one parent transportation contract for approval.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve those student services items as read.
I'd be glad to
Thank you, Mrs. Fiesel. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Gulladye. Any questions? Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Fiesel,
Yes.
Mrs. Regola Dye,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And personnel.
I'm glad to answer it at the end, but it's a business session, so we limit those conversations. All right, we're heading down the home stretch. We have 2 more sections to deal with here. The next is personnel, certificated and licensed staff. We do have one retirement to share. Deb Whitmore is going to be retiring at the end of the year. She was our very first school social worker. We now have 3 school social workers, and I would venture to guess after this year we'll have a few more than 3. But Deb has been the one who has been here the longest, and she's at that point, she's ready to retire. But excited to see the direction we've moved in this area. Other than that, in this section, we have the typical employment pieces, from supplementals to department heads, advisors, all of the ones you would traditionally see in this section, for your approval.
Okay, thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve the certificated licensed staff.
So moved.
Thank you. And do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Gulladye. Were there any questions? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Getzmann,
Yes.
Mrs. Regola Dye,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you.
And our final section for tonight, under classified staff, no items for information. We have a number of items for board approval. We do have one resignation. Betsy Farrell is resigning as head custodian at Dan Emmett. She's actually going to the postal service, so good for her.
That's wonderful.
And we have other substitute employment in this section, as well as bus driver and a couple transfers for your approval.
I had to study those transfers. Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Second. Yeah, it was confusing to figure out, who's replacing whom.
Oh, yeah.
But it all works out.
We've had this before in this particular area, that's for sure.
It's all correct. It all works out. Okay, any questions? Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Regola Dye,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And is executive session?
I don't have a need for executive session unless the board would.
I don't think so. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Rodai. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Mrs. Fiesel. And if you'll call the roll, we will be adjourned.
Mrs. Regola Dye,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes. We are adjourned.